one of my favorite things to talk about are maybe patterns that we don't know that are happening that lead us to maybe dating the quote bad boy. That's such a thing with so many women. And I definitely used to be in that bucket where it's like the only thing I wanted was the thing that was bad for me or the thing that didn't want me back. Where does that stem from? Like, what belief system do you think is driving those decisions?
Well, I don't think it's a belief system. I think that we've been pathologized a lot for the strange choices we make. And now that we understand a little bit more about the neurological injury of childhood trauma, you can completely let yourself off the hook. There's a change in the way your brain processes information. And everybody, nobody really has control over who they feel attracted to. And who we feel attracted to is a weird product of experiences that we've had and then the way our nervous system handles that information. So if you had trauma as a kid and, that the bad boy thing, I would sort of even broaden it to say unavailable, inappropriate, or even abusive people. Like there's this common pattern. Not everybody with trauma has it, but it's a very common pattern to be attracted to those people and to feel like electrified by it. So a lot of times we were told, oh, you're just trying to repeat your childhood. And I used to always question that. It never felt right. But the nervous system will sort of electrify. Attraction is like a chemical reaction to things. It will electrify on certain things. And because we have trauma, anything stressful and meeting somebody, deciding whether you're going to like spend the night with them, that's a stress moment. There's this brain change that happens where your reasoning in your left front cortex stops working very well. Your right front cortex, which is emotion, does work well. And there's this, I would call it, this is kind of an extreme term, but eroticization of abandonment that happens. But it's not a conscious choice, just like, people who are into feet or something, they didn't decide to be into it. It's just their nervous system is responding to something. And some of us have an unfortunate pattern for that. There's also a pattern where people will feel very attracted to the person they can't have or obsessed, but like they just don't feel it for somebody who's nice to them and cares about them. That can be healed, but that's a really typical pattern from trauma. And it's not a choice. It's not something you're choosing.
So if it's not a choice, how do you get, I know so many young ladies that is the only thing that they're interested in, and they do get very obsessed, and it's the totally unavailable person or the person that's very hot and cold with them. What are the steps to stop chasing after that and make healthier decisions?
Well, somebody blowing hot and cold, just for the record, you can do that to a rat and the rat will become obsessed.
Really?
Yeah, I think that when we were neglected as kids, we maybe got primed. It's called intermittent reinforcement or trauma bonding. Some people think trauma bonding is more like people with trauma bond, but that's not it. What it is the way your attachment mechanism is activated by love blowing hot and then cold, hot, cold. And that's what you get with somebody like an alcoholic parent. That's what you get with somebody who's not into you and is manipulating you. And the more it happens to you, the more your nervous system is kind of primed for it. And so the first thing you have to do when you decide you don't want to have that pattern anymore is you have to stop. And it's very difficult sometimes. It'll feel like quitting smoking or worse, because it doesn't feel true that something else is the answer and is ever going to feel attractive and exciting to you. But basically you would treat it like, well, I used to smoke cigarettes. I smoked 2 packs a day. And when I smoked, I really felt like there's no way that I can feel okay without cigarettes. And anybody who's had to get past an addiction knows, like, yeah, it feels like that at first. And then your brain heals and you can begin to not smoke. You can begin to, you have to like cut yourself off from these obsessions with people. When somebody isn't interested in you, and this is not helped by a lot of the hookup culture, where there's a lot of rationalizations you can have. It's like, well, I just expect too much, or I'm going to be very unclear about what I really want because I don't want to appear like I'm needy. And all these things work against you, because if you have a core desire, a heart's desire that you want to be in a committed relationship, if you're having relationships that are anything less, they're taking you out of that. And they're starting to reinforce this thing where you fake it and you pretend you're okay and you're cool girl and you're just friends or whatever it is, Yeah, we can go to the movies with your new girlfriend. All that stuff is like stuff that we're encouraged to do in the culture. But if you have this fundamental attachment wound, that you bond with people who aren't into you, it makes it worse. So it has to be cut off cold turkey. That's the trick. And I don't think a lot of therapists will tell you that. And I know when I was going through it, my therapist kept going, let's talk about it. Let's draw a picture about it. Oh, you had a dream. Tell me your dream. And all that stuff was just me ruminating on an addiction. It'd be like sitting there, tell me about how much you love cigarettes. Don't do that. You have to do practical things to get it out of your mind. But I teach a technique, and my whole book is about this. I teach a technique to process your thoughts and feelings. We now know that trauma, complex PTSD, trauma that happens in childhood, it creates an injury to your nervous system that can make it hard to process thoughts and feelings. So a lot of us are walking around with a lot going on in here, and it's old stuff, but it's still charged. And when you have a lot of emotional noise inside your consciousness, it's very hard to detect. Is this person, am I reading the signals right? That mixed signal, does it mean they love me, or does it mean that they're just, would like to have me around for one more night? So that's how it happens. Your brain's not working properly, and you've got to give your brain a chance to heal through healing techniques, but also structured changes to your life that help you stop doing the thing that's making it worse, re-traumatizing you.
So many places to go with that. I guess the first one would be, how do you know if you're operating from a dysregulated system, or basically what I'm going to say is an injured or traumatized brain, or if it's something that's more in alignment with who you are? And we can use hookup culture as a really great example. So it's average, like about 3 to 5% of women do have more of what you would call like a masculine sex drive, and they're more okay with casual sex. But that's a very small number. That doesn't represent what we're seeing with a lot of younger people, which is a very big amount of participating in hookup culture. So how would you know if you're part of that 5% that is actually okay with that, or you're part of the other chunk that's maybe doing the people pleasing thing, and I want to be the cool girl and I don't want to run him off, and right, you're participating almost at your own expense. So where do you know if you're dysregulated or if it's authentic?
Well, partly you're crying all the time. You're tearing your hair out. You're obsessed with whether somebody's calling you back. It's all you can talk about. I think it's an experience to know this around relationships. Relationships is one of the key ways that childhood trauma affects you, but there's like a symptom pattern if you have complex PTSD, and it includes an attraction to unavailable, inappropriate, or abusive people, and not just partners, but like bosses, friends. Feeling really overwhelmed in social situations, or like you want to pull away. It's very triggering with people. A pattern of conflict with other people where you're, just constantly kind of at war with your coworkers or your neighbors and your partner, the constant conflict. Also discombobulation. And this part is the physical dysregulation. When we say dysregulation, a lot of people think we're just talking about emotions. And emotions are part of it. But when your nervous system is dysregulated, it's like every system in your body. Your immune system is dysregulated. Your hormone system is dysregulated.